We've been in this series called THRIVAL. And it's really this conversation about what does it mean to thrive in life, not to just survive in life, but to truly thrive. And you might be here visiting a spiritual community thinking, what are you exactly talking about when you use that word spiritual? I think it's important for us to define the words that we use and to really understand what we're talking about. And when we use the word spiritual, because we're a community of people of so many backgrounds who are inclusive, and we're totally welcoming and affirming of all different types of spiritual paths and journeys. So really, there may be many different definitions of that word here in this room. So in the broadest sense possible, when we are talking about the things that are spiritual, we are talking about what it means to live our lives in a fulfilling and a meaningful way. What does it mean to live our lives from the heart? You know, so often we live from the head, but what if we lived from the heart? What if we really thought about and were intentional about what our values were and we lived from that place? And what if that type of life actually connected us with others and connected us with ourselves? And so this is a lot of what we mean when we say that we are a spiritual community. And so in this series, we're really talking about this shift that we make in our lives from living in purely survival mode, just making it through, into thriving, into a life of fulfillment, of meaning, of well-being. And one of the pitfalls that we face, tell me if this is something you resonate with, we tend to divide our normal life and our spiritual life, right? Maybe you come into this room on a Sunday and you feel like yourself. You feel like, oh, this is really who I am. And then you have to go out through your week and maybe your job or the different demands of your life. And it feels like you're not so much that true essence of who you are. It feels like you become another person. You know, you go on a retreat or you go into some kind of deep spiritual experience, and there's one side of you, and then you go into your everyday life, and there's another side. And it can be difficult to know how to reconcile the two. And yet I think there's something so profound when instead of looking those as two separate things, we begin to integrate. We begin to ask ourselves what it would mean to integrate the two. See, I believe, friends, that spirituality is not something that removes us from the ordinary or removes us from the everyday, but it's something that actually deepens our experience of it. And let's be real, a major portion of our life is spent on work and tasks, caring for others, caring for the places that we live. In a lot of ways, our lives are spent thinking about how we're going to earn money and how we're going to spend money, right? And in some ways, the word I want to use today when talking about this dimension of our lives, this aspect of our lives that is spent building a career and figuring out how we're going to navigate and figuring out how we're going to be okay in the world and how we're going to interact with the larger world around us in society. The word I want to use today is marketplace, because we have our homes and we have our communities, and then we also we go into the marketplace, this space in collective life where we find the thing that we can offer to the world, and we figure out how to navigate the world. We go to market, you know. Not like the little piggy that went to market, who I recently found out did not make it. I found that out recently. It's not a good thing that he went to market. See, you actually might be in this room and you might be retired. And yet still, friends, I would encourage you to see that you have a big portion of your life that is still active in the marketplace. Because whether it was a large chunk of your life spent in a career, or also the fact that you are still in a world where you are navigating these different aspects of money and obligations and tasks, and you have so many people in your life who maybe are still working on their careers. We all navigate this aspect of life, what we might consider the mundane, the ordinary. And yet when we are just surviving, we see this aspect of our lives as a chore. We probably even see it as an inhibition. It's the thing standing in the way from us actually enjoying our lives. Gosh, we just gotta work, gotta do that. But when we are thriving, we might begin to see all parts of our lives, including that aspect, as an opportunity to integrate, as being part of a spiritual life. See, one of my favorite quotes about this dynamic, it's a Zen proverb, and it goes like this: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. 2024 version, before you embark on your spiritual path, write emails, pay taxes, go to the grocery store, build your career. And after you embark upon your spiritual path, write emails, pay taxes, go to the grocery store, build your career. Friends, I don't think it's about an escape from those aspects of life. I feel like it's an integration. It's about deepening our experience of it. A few months back, we did a deeper dive through an entire series into the hero's journey, which is Joseph Campbell's framework of kind of how in all of our lives we have this journey that we go on where we leave the ordinary, and in the context of the hero's journey, we leave the village, we leave home, we go on a journey, we leave the ordinary, we go into the non-ordinary world. But ultimately, the arc of that story is we all return to the ordinary. We all return home. And it's actually what we discovered along the way. It's what we discovered in the unknown. It's what we discovered in that non-ordinary state that we are able to bring back into the ordinary for the benefit of all. So we leave, we return, and we integrate. And what happens when you go on this journey is at the end of it, you are considered a master of two worlds, meaning you can now move about with ease those two different aspects of life. And I wonder if this really applies to this journey and this dynamic between the ordinary and the spiritual. See, we have these spiritual moments and these spiritual experiences in our lives that widen our understanding, that deepen our sense of interconnection with everything. And yet, we take those back into our everyday lives. They're not separate things. We return to the ordinary, and yet we become the type of person that can move in and out of those spaces with ease, rather than seeing them as something that is separate. See, friends, a spiritual life without an integration of the ordinary parts of our life is not a spiritual life at all. In fact, maybe we don't even need to use that word spiritual life. Maybe it's just that there is only life, right? See, something that we probably all have in common, whatever your belief system is that we are here having a human experience. Some of us maybe would use the term that we are a spiritual being having a human experience. Maybe some of you would just say that we are human beings having a human experience. Either way, something that we can agree on is that we are here having a human experience. And friends, I believe that the goal is not to be less human, but to be more human. And in fact, the more human that we become, the more that we actually reflect the divine in our humanness and in the ordinariness of our humanness. There's an author named Tish Warren she wrote a book called Liturgy of the Ordinary, encouraging us to see the beauty and the profound aspects of our ordinary life. And she says this about something as simple as making the bed every day. In the creation story, God entered chaos and made order and beauty. In making my bed, I reflected that creative act in the tiniest, most ordinary way. In my small chaos, I made small order. See, sometimes we see these obligations, these tasks, the work that we have to do as a means to an end. If I can just get through this, I'll be happy. And friends, I won't promise you that your work is always going to be filled with joy all the time. But what I can promise you is that whatever moment is right in front of you, that is your life. Because the past is a projection, the future is a projection. The only thing that is truly real is the moment that you're experiencing right in front of you. So don't miss it. See, sometimes we look at the Zen tradition and we use the language of Zen. And I wonder if sometimes we miss some of what we're talking about because we say, oh, I don't really want to do this task, so I'll go into a Zen mode, right? I'll be Zen about it, and then it'll be fine. And I think what we're saying is that I'm just going to meditate through this so I can get to the other side. But actually, I believe that the Zen masters were actually going a step further and saying, what if it wasn't even about skipping over something, but about deepening your experience of it? See, Thich Nhat Han said this: if while washing dishes, we think only of the cup of tea that awaits us, thus hurrying to get the dishes out of the way as if they were a nuisance, then we are not washing the dishes to wash the dishes. What's more, we are not alive during the time we're washing the dishes. In fact, we are completely incapable of realizing the miracle of life while standing at the sink. He's not saying, oh, we wash the dishes so that the act of washing the dishes will make us a better person, or that washing the dishes is something that, well, if we can just skip through this, we can get to something better. He's saying, actually wash the dishes to wash the dishes because there is no greater miracle than that which is standing right in front of you. See, friends, survival is our mindset when we are thinking, look at all that I have to do. Look at all that I need to do to get through in order to enjoy my life. And THRIVAL says, look at all I get to do. Look at all that I have the opportunity to experience. Sure, not all experiences are going to be the same. But friends, I don't think that the life we want is a life without work, is a life without tasks. I think the life we want is a life with meaningful work and meaningful tasks. And yet what that's going to look like for each of us is going to be very different. It's going to be unique because we all have different lives and different experiences. So the more that we share our stories with one another, the more that we might see ourselves in each other. So what I want to do is in just a moment, I'm going to invite someone to share a little bit about their story of integrating work and spirituality. I want to introduce you. You may have seen him playing the cajon, but this is a friend of mine named Carl, and he is from Seattle, and we met when I was living there for 6 years, and he's someone who has really just mentored me and guided me through really my time spent trying to navigate the marketplace world that I described to you. And he was someone where I looked to really help me figure out, who I'm going to be in that world. And we both together explored our spirituality and how that evolves and develops and how that affects our time in that aspect of our life. And for many of us, as we go on a spiritual journey, we show up in different spaces of our lives in different ways. And workplace is one of those very important areas. And so for you, as someone who's evolved, as someone who's changed, as you look throughout your life, how has the way that you've shown up in the workplace changed?
Yeah, thanks. Hello, everyone. I think that at first, I was, like you said earlier, I was very much, this is what I do on Sunday, and I play drums for my church, and I was also raised Catholic. I'm sorry for all of you. And then I wonder if anyone's going to say that, like in the future, I was raised Catholic. I don't know if that might be going away, because then you don't want to do it. But I felt like it was different, at work you were doing, just driving and being the work person, so they're very separate for me. And then I think that evolved into, as I got into more of a contemporary Christian church, feeling like, I have to find some way to share my faith. I have to, I don't want to be like on the pulpit or like preaching at people, but I need to just find ways that they find out, maybe mentioning I play drums at church or some way to just hint at it, or, I'll, ask forgiveness for this. I'm going to act in a way that someone's going to ask me, how come you're this way, right? So that became I've got to find some way to get known about this or to be able to share this, Yeah.
And so where do you see yourself now, having continued to evolve, continue to grow?
Right.
Showing up maybe not with an agenda.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely, I evolved out of that and became more... as I also sort of deconstructed in faith and began to look at just different ways of being and understanding that everybody's kind of living their own path and wanting to almost more just listen and, taking from the Bible, seeking to understand versus to be understood. Thinking, I just want to know more about how people feel and what they're doing and not even kind of just thinking, hey, we're all pointing at the same thing, saying, what is it and what are we doing? And not saying, I know the path, you have to be on my path, I need you to ask me about my path. And then I just felt like, now I just want a place where I can just be fully me, and that's what I want everybody to be able to be. And so just feeling more courage to just listen to others. And I'm at a new job now. I've been there about 4.5 years, and what I love about it is my boss and I have talked about everything from... He was doing some ketamine treatments for a while and struggling with anxiety. And I had a big anxiety attack about a year ago. And he and I have talked about that and just thinking the spirituality has become like, can I be fully myself? Can I feel the courage to share what's actually happening in my life without a fear of judgment or, well, don't you go to church or aren't you praying? It's not about how you're dealing with that, but just can you fully be where you are in front of others? And then if you're doing that, is it giving then almost back to my thought of, if I'm living a certain way, will they ask me? If I'm just being fully myself, will other people feel like, I guess I can be fully myself? It's okay to share that, I'm not going to, I didn't work yesterday because I was really struggling mentally versus you have to have some, I had a meeting or something scheduled, no, it's okay that you were struggling and had a hard time working yesterday, So it's become, I guess, spiritual, if it is that, is just, can I be fully 360 myself every day versus a certain way on a Sunday and a certain way at work? And Yeah.
How many of us maybe at different points in our life have felt, especially for those of us who grew up in a particular type of religious system, that we had this sort of obligation that we needed to convince people of something, whether it be in our workplace, in our communities. Maybe we were expressly told that we need to share our faith in a particular way. And maybe you're thinking, like, I'm looking at these people living their lives and they seem to be doing okay. I don't know that I need to spend this energy trying to convert them into something. And what's beautiful is when you kind of release that, you're able to see people and experience people and have those moments where you can be really vulnerable and authentic. And the truth is that the best thing we can ever offer another person is our presence, is showing up deeply present. And so I think that's really cool that you reflect that. It's interesting because some of the greatest challenges that we face in life relate to career, relate to finances, relate to how are we going to figure this situation out. And it can really put us in a deeply stressed and existential place, and it can really affect our spirituality. But the reverse is it's also an opportunity to grow, and it's an opportunity to really reflect on what's important. So, as someone who knows you, I know that you have had an experience that really began as a challenge, and it really shifted into something that became a spiritual opportunity for you. Do you want to share on that?
Yeah, I guess it's. I did start to struggle with thinking. I think there's more to this. Again, spirituality. I think in certain contemporary Christians is like a bad word, right? Oh, you're just spiritual. You're not actually. You didn't say the 5 words. You're not reading the stuff. But I feel like it's now become more of a holistic approach, and I think that there's been so many openers. I know one thing I shared. I don't know. It's just even feeling certain ways, like as I go through this arc of really polarizing topics like homosexuality, where I was in a men's group with someone who, after one of the he was there for about a year at the church, and I knew him from work. And then, the pastor talked about, well, this is what the Bible says about that. And he was really offended because he had an uncle, who was homosexual, and he was like, well, I just don't feel that way. And he was just, I'm out of here. And he didn't want to go anymore. And I felt like moving from the arc of like, oh, to each his own, to versus like, who am I to judge, versus, well, maybe that's okay, to a time when, I had a really close coworker, and the same kind of thing, like, hey, I'm not to judge. He can do what he wants to do. But I feel like that's only partway along the journey. And then I had a dream that was like, I was gay, and I was really in love with my best friend, and it seemed so natural and so normal. And it made me think of like the biblical, where they, the meat comes down and the sheet full, and it's like, oh, this is fine. Everybody can eat this. It's fine, right? And I'm thinking, can that still happen? Like, could God give me a vision that like, oh, this is fine. This is just how someone feels. They're just in love. It's not weird or it's not some side. And so it was crazy, but I came back to work, and I found myself over the next couple of weeks trying to figure out, how can I share this with this person without it seeming super weird? Right? But I was like, I felt new. I felt like, I think I get it. I think it's fine. And I did end up sharing with them at one point, and our friendship just really grew after that, because I wasn't just trying to like, no, you can be okay. I'm that kind of, I was like, no, I think I got something. I think I understand. And that's just one example, but I think there's been these shifts where if I am open and I am trying to think, so many years I prayed, like, can I get God's perspective on things? And I thought that meant, like the Christian church telling me, I'm reading my Bible every day, and I'm going to like the God of the Bible. That's how I'm going to have the perspective, right? But I think he was answering my prayer, because his perspective is, if I love everyone the same, then what's a loving attitude towards someone in any way of living? And so then I slowly was getting pieces of that, I think, and then trying to have the courage to like, oh, this is what it means to just fully accept others. And I think my more recent journey, I don't know if we want to go all the way to here, but is like, I have to fully love myself, because I'm actually still judging myself for ways I think, or which of course affects how I look at someone else. Because I'm like, well, I hate that in me, so of course it's terrible if you do it, Yeah.
This aspect of our lives is it's really one of the places where we struggle most with identity, and we struggle most with conflating who we are with who we are in career. Is that who I actually am? Maybe for those of you who have retired, you struggled with putting that down and realizing, oh, am I someone without this other aspect of my life? And it's also an area where I think we try to figure out how we can kind of prove ourselves and how we can show who we are. So what it really ends up happening is, a lot of ways, it feels like an inauthentic version of ourselves that ends up showing up. And, you're someone who you've inspired me just to be the most truest and authentic version of yourself, because at the end of the day, that's something you can always fall back on. I don't know if you want to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that in many areas. Most notably, I can go back to like when you're first dating, and I'm thinking I can totally chameleon myself to where this person loves me, right? And then I'm like, this is perfect. And then like you're going along, like they love me. Like, I don't even like them. I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I don't even like this situation. I hate the opera, or whatever, right? And then you're just like, but it worked, so this, and then I think I definitely did that at work, right? Well, what do I need to be? They're looking for this, I can interview well, and I got the job, and then you're in that job, and I can move up, I can get that job, and just looking to get more money, and I can always positioning myself to be a certain way. And that one took longer. I did that for years without realizing, not necessarily without realizing, but without changing to, hey, I just want to be myself, and then the job I get will be the right job. I mean, for a long time, I was going up, climbing the ladder, right? So it's probably only been in the last maybe 5 to 8 years that I've started more about, it's super important to me, the character and quality of who I'm working with, what are we about? What, how am I connecting every day with people? Am I with other people who are willing to show up and be fully themselves? And so we can build that bond. And so I feel like it's moved towards what's important to me is, am I somewhere where I can fully be myself, allow others to be themselves? And so the bond gets created. I think you do work very much, a lot better together. And you and I have talked about that, where I think you can really get your mindset around like, well, what does someone want to hear? Even now I'm responsible for a lot of times closing sales. So we get into where somebody wants something, and we do custom software, and then I'm trying to figure out what they want, how much budget they have, and I'm thinking, what do I need to say so that they say, oh, okay, let's do it? But what I realize is what I want to say is just very truthfully, here's where I'm at, here's where it's like I think we may be too expensive for you. Like, I think you probably would need to go with, because we are very careful about how we do things, and it becomes expensive as you add more roles and more time to really develop an idea before you start building it. And so I try to help them understand the path. Like, if you really want to be here where you have an amazing thing, you're gonna have to do all this time and money, and maybe that's not where you're at. Maybe you're just trying to like quickly try something, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Like, well, we don't really like to do that. So feeling like I can just be truthful, and then if they don't want to do it, great. We avoided a bad situation. If they do want to do it, great, because now you get the process and you're into it, and so it does feel like if you can have the courage, but it's hard because we've also like have a couple clients not paying, and sales are down. So then you get a new opportunity, and you're like, it's very tempting to like, I think I just know how to get this. Like, I think I can, if I just a little bit less price and we skip this piece, we could win it, and they'll sign. But then I'm like, this is going to be bad. So it's really hard when you need the money and you need it to still follow your heart and do the right thing,
And there's so many areas of our life where there is that get this mentality. If I could just get this, I'll be happy. And so I'm willing to do whatever I need to do in order to get that or achieve that or get that promotion or get that, whatever financial opportunity. And yet I think what we've all seen in our lives is that if we get there from an inauthentic place, it's not real, it doesn't resonate, it's not authentic, and we won't even really be able to fully enjoy it. Authenticity is so key. But for some of us, we might be in positions, and I'm curious what you would say to someone who is either in a job where they're thinking, I don't see how to find the spirituality in this, or maybe even someone who is really struggling, someone who's lost a job, or who's in a position where they're thinking, I don't know what the lesson is in this. I don't know what the spiritual message or how to work out my own journey in this difficult situation. It might not be a real easy time for some people right now when it comes to career. And I don't know what you might say to them.
Yeah, I think in a way, just based on the presentation so far today, and it's a little bit of a softball because, like, if you're going to wash the dishes, just wash the dishes. And I think that I have learned that it's not, as I said through that arc, it's not moving to like, how can I bring my Christian faith into this scenario versus I think God is in everything and he's in every moment and it's in every part of us. And it's funny, you always want to qualify, depending on, source or earth or nature, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're comfortable with. But that which we don't understand that's happening in all of us is always happening. And so I think that presence where in any moment you're just saying, I got to do this. And so I've been working on not judging the situation for good or bad, but it is just is the situation. And so when I think, how can I bring spirituality into work, or it's more about like starting by listening and paying attention and giving I tend to talk over people. So they have an idea and I'm like, I know this one, right? I'm like, you're halfway in your sentence, like, okay, go. Like, I know what okay, I'm done. Let me just tell you, I know you haven't finished your sentence. And so really been working on, can I listen to your full thing, your full emotion, really take you in, really look at your eyes, really listen to what you're saying and hear it from your perspective and try to not bring all the stuff I already know, because I am in a position of being, a career where now I'm COO and I'm mentoring others. And so I'm kind of like, okay, yep, you're describing one that I know. Yep, been through this one. But let them fully get their whole heart out there. And then also the other part for us men, like then not necessarily try to solve, but just like, I heard you, that does sound really hard. And almost find out, do you want me to give you solutions or did you just want me to hear you? And so is that spiritual? Yeah. I mean, I don't, right? I don't know, right? I mean, I think it is, because now it's like, what if what I learned in my Catholic Christian, deconstructed thing is that it's all about love, that we know that, but we say it so flippantly and easily. But what does love look like? What's loving to a person at that moment? Listening, paying attention. People want attention. They want, that's an emotional thing to say. That's weird. You just want to be seen, right? And heard. So if I can do that, then that's going to feel loving, and that feels like I'm best reflecting what I think God's been trying to teach me for 53 years.
When we use the word spiritual, friends, I don't think that there is anything more spiritual than the present moment. I don't think there's anything more miraculous than the now. And yet sometimes we think, well, that's great. If the present moment is me lying on a beach on vacation, that's awesome. But if we say yes to that present moment and no to the present moment when we're sitting at our desk, when we're answering emails, when we're washing the dishes, then I think we've missed something key and crucial. So friends, I'd encourage us to see all of our present moments as equal and realize that if a lot of them are going to be spent in this area of work and of running errands and of doing the things that keep our life going, that we can find the beauty and the value in deepening our experience of them rather than escaping from them. And so I want to just close by this. If you are comfortable and you want to close your eyes, I just want to say a quick prayer for all of us as we go throughout our experiences of this. To the God of each of our understandings, universe, source, creator, we are grateful to be able to gather in a space where we can feel seen, where we can feel heard and connected to our brothers and sisters. But we know that our life includes leaving this space and going out into the various things that make us who we are. And we ask for a deeper sense of empathy, that you would give us empathy for others, that you would open our eyes and ears to hear other people as they are and accept them for who they are, accepting situations for what they are, not needing to change them, not needing to change other people. Would we create a space in our lives to see that even the most mundane of moments are miraculous? Even the most ordinary of moments, there is a gift and a blessing behind it all, that to be here at all is an incredible gift. So may we see everything that flows from being here, including the things that we wouldn't always choose to be spending our time doing. Would we see that as part of the gift and as part of the miracle? So that when we do return to these spaces and we do return to the spiritual moments of our life, that we would come with an extra sense of joy and a gratitude for the entirety of what we call our lives. Amen.